"I just want to see my balance," she said, her voice trembling just enough to reveal the fear she was trying to hide. The millionaire sitting across from her, in a sleek glass-walled office overlooking the city, laughed. It was the kind of laugh that carried power, confidence, and a hint of arrogance, the kind that could make ordinary people shrink in its shadow. But the moment he glanced at the screen, that laughter caught in his throat. Rachel Thompson was not your typical young woman. At 27, she had spent most of her adult life struggling to stay afloat. She grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and dreams were considered a luxury. Her father had left when she was 12, leaving her mother to work double shifts just to keep the lights on. College had been a distant dream until a local scholarship made it possible, but even then, she had taken out loans and worked 3 part-time jobs just to survive. Rachel learned early on that life rarely handed out kindness, and if she wanted something, she had to fight for it. Her journey to this moment had been anything but smooth. She had been rejected from countless banks, denied credit after credit, and often faced people who judged her before they even heard her story. Yet, here she was, standing in front of Jonathan Whitman, a man whose wealth was whispered about in every financial magazine and social circle, asking for a simple favor, to see her balance. Jonathan had seen many people like her, hopeful and desperate, thinking that charm or ambition alone could open doors that money protected. His initial amusement came from a place of disbelief. How could someone with so little, someone he might have dismissed instantly, be in the room with him, asking for something so mundane in his world? But when he looked at the account details on the screen, the numbers defied all his assumptions. Rachel's balance wasn't just respectable, it was remarkable. Every dollar she had earned had come from sheer grit, careful planning, and the refusal to give up. There were no shortcuts, no unexpected windfalls, no hidden family wealth. Jonathan studied the screen, realizing that the woman before him had achieved in years what some spent decades trying to grasp. The laughter that had once been amusement now turned to astonishment. The story behind those numbers was one of resilience. Rachel had faced eviction twice, had suffered through layoffs, and had endured betrayals from friends who claimed to support her dreams. Each time she fell, she picked herself up with a determination that surprised even her. She had spent nights working multiple shifts, mornings studying, and every moment in between learning the principles of investment, budgeting, and financial strategy. Her world had been a constant battle against circumstance, and yet she had emerged victorious, her balance reflecting the triumph of perseverance over adversity. Jonathan realized that this was more than a story about money. It was about courage, resourcefulness, and the kind of human spirit that refused to be defined by hardship. He leaned back in his chair, the initial amusement gone, replaced by respect. "Tell me your story," he said, his voice no longer laced with humor but genuine interest. Rachel's eyes shone as she recounted her journey. She spoke of late nights in libraries, early mornings delivering packages, of the mentor who had taught her the basics of finance, and the community center where she had learned that knowledge could be a weapon against poverty. Each chapter of her life was punctuated with struggles that could have broken anyone, yet she had turned obstacles into lessons. She had learned patience when the world demanded instant success, humility when she was overlooked, and resilience when every door seemed closed. By the end of her story, Jonathan was no longer just a wealthy observer. He saw in Rachel the embodiment of hope and determination, proof that success was not measured merely by money but by the courage to keep moving forward when everything seemed against you. He offered her an opportunity to partner on a venture he was planning, one that would allow her to leverage her knowledge and experience to create impact far beyond her own life. Rachel accepted, not because she needed validation, but because she knew her journey was bigger than herself. She had learned that wealth could come in many forms, not only through numbers in a bank account but through knowledge, resilience, and the lives she could touch. Her story became an inspiration to countless others, a reminder that setbacks were temporary and determination could turn impossible dreams into reality. Years later, when people asked Jonathan about the woman who had walked into his office asking to see her balance, he would smile and say that she had taught him the most valuable lesson of all: never underestimate someone who refuses to give up, because they might just redefine what success looks like. Rachel's balance had been more than money. It was a symbol of her strength, her courage, and her refusal to let circumstances define her. And in the end, that simple request to see her balance became the moment that changed both their lives forever, proving that true wealth is earned through persistence, vision, and an unwavering belief in oneself. After that day in Jonathan Whitman's office, Rachel's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The partnership he offered wasn't just about money. It was about trust, mentorship, and a platform to share her knowledge. For the first time, She didn't feel like she was climbing alone. But the path ahead was far from easy. Success, she realized, didn't erase struggle. It just changed its form. The venture was demanding. Rachel worked tirelessly, often sacrificing sleep and personal time. She faced executives who questioned her age and experience, competitors who tried to undermine her, and unexpected crises that threatened to derail months of preparation. There were moments when she doubted herself, wondering if she truly belonged in this world of wealth and power. But each challenge reminded her of the nights she had spent in poverty, the times she had been underestimated, and the countless battles she had already won. If she had survived that, she could survive this. One particularly difficult moment came when a critical investor pulled out at the last minute. The team she had built began to panic, and Rachel felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest. For a few hours, she retreated to her apartment, staring at the city skyline, reflecting on how far she had come. She remembered the first day she had seen her balance, how small and fragile it had felt, and how much determination had been required to grow it. That memory became a fuel, and she returned to the office with renewed focus. She negotiated tirelessly, adjusted the plans, and eventually secured a replacement investor, one who believed not just in the numbers, but in her vision and character. Throughout this journey, Rachel never forgot where she came from. She set up scholarships for students like herself, mentored young women navigating financial independence, and spoke openly about the struggles of starting from nothing. Her story inspired people far beyond her immediate circle. Letters, emails, and messages poured in from strangers who had felt hopeless, who had lost faith in themselves, only to be reminded that determination and resilience could change everything. At the same time, Jonathan Whitman watched with pride. He had encountered many talented individuals, but few had the combination of skill, courage, and humility that Rachel possessed. He often reflected on that first moment, the laugh that died on his lips when he saw her balance. He realized that the value of wealth wasn't in what it could buy but in what it could unlock in others. Rachel had unlocked not only her potential but also his understanding of what it truly meant to succeed. The biggest test came when Rachel was offered the chance to expand internationally. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it required leaving the people and routines she loved behind. Her team worried, her family was concerned, and even she hesitated. Yet, she knew that fear of change was never a reason to stop growing. With a deep breath, she accepted, taking with her the lessons of persistence, humility, and courage that had guided her from the beginning. Over the next several years, Rachel's influence grew. She became known not just as a successful entrepreneur, but as a mentor, an advocate, and a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever struggled. She built businesses, supported communities, and demonstrated that wealth could serve a higher purpose. Through every challenge, she remembered the lesson of that first moment in Jonathan's office. The balance on a screen was more than numbers. It represented every late night, every failure, and every choice to keep going when the world said no. In time, Rachel returned to her old neighborhood. She walked past familiar streets, remembered the people who had shaped her, and felt a deep gratitude for the struggles that had once seemed unbearable. Children played in the alleys, women worked tirelessly, and young men dreamed big. She spoke to them, shared her story, and encouraged them to take control of their futures. "It's not about where you start," she said. "It's about refusing to give up, even when the odds are against you. Every step forward counts." And so, the story that began with a simple request, "I just want to see my balance," evolved into a tale of perseverance, courage, and inspiration. Rachel had transformed her life not by luck, but by relentless determination, by believing in herself when no one else did, and by refusing to let her circumstances define her. Her journey became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that true success is measured not by wealth alone, but by the impact you leave and the lives you touch along the way. By the time Rachel looked back, she realized the balance she had first seen was never about money. It was about potential, resilience, and the courage to take control of her destiny. And in the end, that balance had unlocked not just her future, but the future of countless others who had been waiting for someone to show them that hope, hard work, and heart could create miracles.